The sixth word.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. İnna Allah iştera minel mu'minina enfusahum ve emvalahum bi enne lehumul cenneh.
In the name of Allah, the merciful, the compassionate. Verily Allah has purchased from the believers their persons and their property, that paradise might be theirs. If you wish to understand how profitable a trade it is, and how honourable a rank to sell one's person and property to Allah, to be His slave and His soldier, then listen to the following comparison. Once a king entrusted each of 2 of his subjects with an estate, including all the necessary workshops, machinery, horses, weapons, and so forth. But since it was a tempestuous and war-ridden age, nothing enjoyed stability. It was destined either to disappear or to change. The king, in his infinite mercy, sent a most noble lieutenant to the 2 men, and by means of a compassionate decree, conveyed the following to them. Sell me the property you now hold in trust, so that I may keep it for you. Let it not be destroyed for no purpose. After the wars are over, I will return it to you in a better condition than before. I will regard the trust as your property and pay you a high price for it. As for the machinery and tools in the workshop, they will be used in my name and at my workbench. But the price and the fee for their use shall be increased 1,000-fold. You will receive all the profit that accrues. You are indigent and resourceless, and unable to provide the cost of these great tasks. So let me assume the provision of all expenses and equipment, and give you all the income and the profit. You shall keep it until the time of demobilization. So see the 5 ways in which you shall profit. Now, if you do not sell me the property, you can see that no one is able to preserve what he possesses, and you too will lose what you now hold. It will go for nothing. And you will lose the high price I offer. The delicate and precious tools and scales, the precious metals waiting to be used, will all lose all value. You will have the trouble and concern of administering and preserving, but at the same time be punished for betraying your trust. So see the 5 ways in which you may lose. Moreover, if you sell the property to me, you become my soldier and act in my name, instead of a common prisoner or irregular soldier. You will be the free lieutenant of an exalted monarch. After they had listened to this gracious decree, the more intelligent of the 2 men said, By all means, I am proud and happy to sell. I offer thanks 1,000-fold. But the other was arrogant, selfish, and dissipated. His soul had become as proud as the Pharaoh. As if he was able to stay eternally on that estate, he ignored the earthquakes and tumults of this world. He said, No, who is the king? I won't sell my property, nor spoil my enjoyment. After a short time, the first man reached so high a rank that everyone envied his state. He received the favour of the king, and lived happily in the king's own palace. The other, by contrast, fell into such a state that everyone pitied him, but also said he deserved it. For as a result of his error, his happiness and property departed, and he suffered punishment and torment. O soul, full of caprices, look at the face of the truth through the telescope of this parable. As for the king, he is the monarch of pre-eternity and post-eternity, your sustainer and creator. The estates, machinery, tools and scales are your possessions while in life's fold. Your body, spirit and heart within those possessions, and your outward and inward senses, such as the eye and the tongue, intelligence and imagination. As for the most noble lieutenant, It is the noble messenger of Allah, and the most wise decree is the wise Quran, which describes the trade we are discussing in this verse.
إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة.
Verily, Allah has purchased from the believers their persons and property that paradise might be theirs. The surging field of battle is the tempestuous surface of the world, which ceaselessly changes, dissolves and reforms, and causes every man to think. Since everything will leave our hands, will perish and be lost, is there no way in which we can transform it into something eternal and preserve it? While engaged in these thoughts, he suddenly hears the heavenly voice of the Quran saying, "Indeed there is a beautiful and easy way which contains 5 prophets within itself." What is that way? To sell the trust received back to its true owner. Such a sale yields profit 5-fold. The first profit. Transient property becomes everlasting. For this waning life, when given to the eternal and self-subsistent Lord of Glory and spent for His sake, will be transmuted into eternity. It will yield eternal fruits. The moments of one's life will apparently vanish and rot like kernels and seeds. But then the flowers of blessedness and auspiciousness will open and bloom in the realm of eternity, and each will also present a luminous and reassuring aspect in the intermediate realm. The second profit. The high price of paradise is given in exchange. The third profit. The value of each limb and each sense is increased 1,000-fold. The intelligence is, for example, like a tool. If you do not sell it to Almighty Allah, but rather employ it for the sake of the soul, it will become an ill-omened, noxious and debilitating tool that will burden your weak person with all the sad sorrows of the past and the terrifying fears of the future. It will descend to the rank of an inauspicious and destructive tool. It is for this reason that a sinful man will frequently resort to drunkenness or frivolous pleasure in order to escape the vexations and injuries of his intelligence. But if you sell your intelligence to its true owner and employ it on his behalf, then it will become like the key to a talisman, unlocking the infinite treasures of compassion and the vaults of wisdom that creation contains. It will thus rise to being a dominical guide, preparing its owner for eternal bliss. To take another example, the eye is one of the senses, a window through which the spirit looks out onto this world. If you do not sell it to Allah Almighty, but rather employ it on behalf of the soul, by gazing upon a handful of transient, impermanent beauties and scenes, it will sink to the level of being a pander to lust and the concupiscent soul. But if you sell the eye to the all-seeing Maker and employ it on His behalf and within limits traced out by Him, then your eye will rise to the rank of a reader of the great book of being, a witness to the miracles of dominical art, a blessed bee sucking on the blossoms of mercy in the garden of this globe. Yet another example is that of the tongue and the sense of taste. If you do not sell it to your wise Creator, but employ it instead on behalf of the soul and for the sake of the stomach, it sinks and declines to a level of a gatekeeper at the stable of the stomach, a watchman at its factory. But if you sell it to the generous provider, the sense of taste contained in the tongue will rise to the rank of a skilled overseer of the treasuries of divine compassion, a grateful inspector in the kitchens of Allah's eternal power. So look well, O intelligence. See the difference between a tool of destruction and the key to all being. And look carefully, O eye. See the difference between an abominable panda and the learned overseer of the divine library, and taste well, O tongue. See the difference between a stable doorkeeper or a factory watchman and the superintendent of the treasury of Allah's mercy. Compare all other tools and limbs to these, and then you will understand that in truth the believer acquires a nature worthy of paradise and the unbeliever a nature conforming to hell. The reason for each of them attaining his respective value is that the believer, by virtue of his faith, uses the trust of his Creator on his behalf and within the limits traced out by him, whereas the unbeliever betrays the trust and employs it for the sake of the instinctual soul. The fourth prophet, man is helpless and exposed to numerous misfortunes. He is indigent and his needs are numerous. He is weak and the burden of life is most heavy. If he does not rely on the omnipotent one of glory, place his trust in him, and confidently submit to him, his conscience will always be troubled. Fruitless torments, pains and regrets will suffocate him and intoxicate him, or turn him into a beast. The fifth prophet, those who have experienced illumination and had unveiled to them the true nature of things, the elect who have witnessed the truth, are all agreed that the exalted reward for all the worship and glorification of Allah performed by your members and instruments will be given to you at the time of greatest need, in the form of the fruits of paradise. If you spurn this trade with its fivefold profit, in addition to being deprived of its profit, you will suffer fivefold loss. The first loss, the property and offspring to which you are so attached, the soul and its caprice that you worship, the youth and life with which you are infatuated, all will vanish and be lost. Your hands will be empty, but they will leave behind them sin and pain, fastened on your neck like a yoke. The second loss, you will suffer the penalty for betrayal of trust, for you will have wronged your own self by using the most precious tools on the most worthless objects. The third loss, by casting down all the precious faculties of man to a level much inferior to the animals, you will have insulted and transgressed against Allah's wisdom. The fourth loss, in your weakness and poverty, you will have placed the heavy burden of life on your weak shoulders, and will constantly groan and lament beneath the blows of transience and separation. The fifth loss, you will have clothed in an ugly form, fit to open the gates of hell in front of you, the fair gifts of the compassionate one, such as the intelligence, the heart, the eye and the tongue, given to you to make preparation for the foundations of everlasting life and eternal happiness in the hereafter. Now, is it so difficult to sell the trust? Is it so burdensome that many people shun the transaction? By no means. It is not in the least burdensome, for the limits of the permissible are broad and are adequate for man's desire. There is no need to trespass on the forbidden. The duties imposed by Allah are light and few in number. To be the slave and soldier of Allah is an indescribably pleasurable honour. One's duty is simply to act and embark on all things in Allah's name, like a soldier, to take and to give on Allah's behalf, to move and be still in accordance with His permission and law. If one falls short, then one seek His forgiveness and say, O Lord, forgive our faults and accept us as your slaves. Make us sure holders of your trust until the time comes when it is taken from us. Amen. And make petition unto Him.
Subhaneke la ilme lena illa ma allamtana inneke entel alimul hakim.
Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise.